All right, I believe we're on. Okay, we are recording, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 4th episode of the PUDcast with Jason and Mike. I'm Jason.
I'm Mike.
And we're coming to you live from GameSwap, located here in downtown Lincolnton, North Carolina, in the great state of North Carolina. Mikey Payne, how you doing this week, brother?
Coming live from the Pud Cave.
From the Pud Cave, the newly christened Pud Cave. Yes, sir. Located in the deepest, darkest bowels of GameSwap. The king of the Puds are coming to you live.
Absolutely, man.
So, Mikey, I've heard rumors that you've had a pretty busy week this week. It's
Yeah,
almost like something big's about to go on, huh? What's happening, man? What's the news, brother?
It's getting crunch time, man. We're a week away from the Beer Hero Lincolnton Comic Con, and it is almost here, and it's almost here. It just, there was no time. I felt like there was just no time in between this. I had a whole year. And it's right here, and it's like, oh my God, where'd the time go?
Right. I know. I dropped in to see you a little bit the other day, Friday, if I'm not mistaken. It was Friday, and bro, you look like you was a little, you look like you had a little bit going on, bro.
A little bit.
You look like you.
I'd say.
Wearing a few different hats.
Yeah. No, it was a busy week, but that's the way it is, and it's just a big event like this. You're gonna have like about 100 different vendors, guests, artists, exhibitors. I mean, it's a big undertaking.
I was gonna say it's a big thing, man. It's a big event.
Yeah.
And Mike, I think last year you said you guys had over 1,000 people.
1,000 attendees. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, we're looking to double that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, with as much space, because we've doubled the size of the event in total. As far as space wise, and like I said, our vendors is doubled.
Right. So, man, I know last year was a blast. I know we put it over big time last week, and I guess for the next podcast it'll be history.
Yeah,
this time next week it'll be over. So, ladies and gentlemen, Puds, if you're out there hearing my voice, I implore you, get down to the high school, the Lincoln High School.
Lincoln High School, both gyms.
Both gyms are going to be full of everything, man, that you love. I'm talking superheroes, comic books.
Wrestling.
Oh, my God, horror. Man. You name it,
yeah,
man.
Sci-fi, horror.
The whole thing, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything pop culture.
Yes, sir. I was about to say this is the pop culture event. Lincoln is finally, in my opinion, starting to get kind of cool. We're starting to get our own Comic Con now. We're coming up, we're growing, and it's, for me, I was never a sports fan. So, growing up in this town back in the day, if you weren't into football or the basketball teams, you didn't have a lot of options. Had some of the local bands, which we're going to really get into that at some point, because I know we both hold a love for the local music scene, being a part of that. Which is kind of a nice segue into this week's episode. We'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
I don't want to get the carriage in front of the horse. But, coming up, man, not being interested in sports and things like that, there wasn't a lot of options in town. Maybe you had the Apple Festival, you had different things here and there. But the Comic Con?
Oh, yes.
That was right up my alley.
That's something, and, like I said last time, it was something that a lot of people said, would never happen here in Lincoln.
I was kind of in that camp, man.
All right.
I didn't have a lot of expectations. I'm like, oh, man, we're such a small town.
Exactly.
It's kind of hard to get things in this town to get rolling. It really is.
It is.
But, man, was I surprised and shocked and pleasantly proven wrong.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations where you want to be proven wrong, and my God, I was. And this year is nothing but optimism, man. I mean, I'm so looking forward to this event.
A lot of people are.
Yes, I mean, I'm chomping at the bit. I'm looking every day. In fact, even Saturday, I'm like, one more week. Oh my God, I wish it was today.
I wish I had one more week in between this
to get kind of prepared and everything. Yeah. But Mike, I'm sure
if I were smart, I would have taken a vacation off the normal job.
What's that? A what?
The normal job. Yeah, exactly.
It's a vacation.
Vacation. I would have taken a vacation off in between this just to handle what I did with that. But I am not a smart person. I am not. I'm just
You're a pud. You're a pud.
I'm just a guy with the crazy ideas.
Right, and
that's it. And I'm not a smart man.
Well, like I said, Mikey, you're a pud. I'm a pud.
Yeah.
But you're a pud, man, that has done some great things in this town. And once again, I know I put you over big time last week, and I'm just going to carry into that and dovetail off of that and just put you over again, brother. What you guys are doing is a great thing. It's great for the community. It's great for me on a personal level, because this is something that's fun for me. This is something that attracts me. And you know, at the end of the day, man, all the proceeds are going to the schools.
Absolutely.
You know, it's going back into the community.
Schools, absolutely. And you know, I can't think of any better way to do that.
Right. It makes it worth it.
It does.
I would think, man, just
the community's involved. You know, it just comes around. You know, full circle. You know, it's just
positivity on top of positivity, man.
Absolutely.
And that's.
And let me just say, you know, speaking of positivity, the podcast in general has gotten a lot of positive reviews.
Man,
we've gotten
support.
a lot of support from everybody.
It's mind-boggling.
Absolutely.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
People have hit me up personally like, hey, you guys are doing great. You know, you guys are doing this and this. And I'm just like, brother.
A lot of positive response.
Yes.
And we weren't quite sure how it was going to go. We
didn't care.
We just jumped in.
We kind of didn't care, right, really.
Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's go with it.
Yeah. If we get a listener, great. If not, who cares?
And, you know, and coming from two PUDs, you know, a lot of people say, you know, we've got faces for radio.
that goddamn.
And voices for newspaper. So since neither one of us, you know,
that's so true,
read or write really well,
no,
we had to go to the podcast.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I learned how to hit the record button. I have a silver box, and it has a red button. And I'm like, oh, let me hit that. Yeah. And then, you know, the podcast was born. And, you know, Mike, before we get into today's subject, I would just like to talk about doing this podcast and about how much of a positive influence and a positive thing it's been on me. You know, like you said, we've had so many people support us. I mean, man, our first video has over 120 views.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
What?
The average YouTuber would not even blink at that.
No.
But to us, I mean, that means a lot.
Oh, man, if you would have told me, Mike, the day that we said, hey, you want to do it? And just a little background, the podcast, this is basically how the podcast started. Hey, man, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? Yeah, for a while now. I'd love to do it. Well, hey, me too. Let's do it Sunday. This was on a Friday.
Yeah.
We had this conversation on a Friday.
That's right.
48 hours later, we're in here and we're doing it. And that's going to bring me to kind of what I wanted to speak of before we get into today's subject matter. And that's the people, if you're out there listening, just like, because see, Joe Rogan, I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan show. And what planted the seed for me to do a podcast was something he said. He was like, hey, if you want to do one, just do it.
Right.
He was like, don't wait around. He's like, if you got a friend or if you just want to do it yourself, and I'm paraphrasing this, man.
Right.
But the bottom line was, if you've ever even considered it, just do it, man. It's easy to set up. It's fairly inexpensive as far as, you know, doing anything goes. You know, you got to spend money for anything, any kind of hobby. But it's relatively inexpensive. You get your voice heard.
Absolutely.
Even if nobody else listens, man, hell, you're getting it out there.
Share your thoughts. Share your ideas.
And you cannot have too much of that, Mikey.
Exactly.
And that's why I want to implore people out there. If you've even for a day, it's like, you know, maybe that'd be fun. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Go for it,
Try
man.
it.
If you see what we're doing, if we can inspire someone to pick this thing up, man, and do it themselves, do it, man. If you need help, you have questions, let us know.
Absolutely.
Man,
let
I would.
Anybody know.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there that are willing to give help, you know, and tips on a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Us included, man. And to me...
And the more you do it, you know, the more confident, obviously.
Just like us.
Absolutely.
Just like us,
you know,
man.
And the better it'll get, and the more comfortable you'll get with it.
And maybe the more people you'll reach. I mean, hell, Mike, you know, to me, man, something that I would love to see with this thing, I would love to see a little network. A network of people we know. People, our friends, family, and neighbors. You know, wouldn't it be awesome if we could just go on YouTube and have a couple of days of entertainment?
Yeah.
Of just hearing what our friends have to say, see what kind of production they can do. Which is, you know, Mikey, it's funny that we're talking about this, because I didn't even mean for this to segue in, but this is a good segue to plug a friend of ours who has a podcast coming out. Hopefully this week. It's called This Is a Work. David Hayes is going to be doing it. Him and a friend of his. I'm not sure of his partner. I haven't met the man, so I'm never prepared. Right. I don't have notes. I actually made a couple notes for today.
He brought a notebook in here.
I got a notebook,
I could not believe it. I almost hit the floor. He brought a notebook and a pen in here.
I was about to say, give me something to write on, man.
And he has notes on it. He actually has notes on it.
I mean, it's not much.
I can't read it. Like I said, I can't read or write well,
yeah,
so
I can't write.
Yeah.
So it worked out. But yeah, Dave, I just want to put that over. David Hayes, a good friend of ours, man, from back in the day, one of my best friends. He's got a podcast coming out. This Is a Work. Obviously, as soon as he gets this thing up and running, we're going to be helping him promote this thing. We're going to be doing some cross promotions. Hopefully, if the stars align, we can work together and, just spread the word.
Absolutely.
And make that thing happen. And this podcast that these guys are doing, I think would be a great companion to what we're doing, because they're going to be concentrating more on current professional wrestling. The current product, the current pay-per-views. In fact, the first episode, if I'm not mistaken, and David, if you're listening, man, if I'm getting anything mixed up, please, leave a comment or something on our Facebook page and correct me on this. But I believe their first show is going to be based on the Extreme Rules pay-per-view that's happening tonight.
Okay.
So just something to listen out,
Well, and talk about that. You don't watch the current product as far as WWE.
No, sir. No. I've tried.
I still watch. And that's a try too.
yeah.
Because I want.
You want to like it.
I want to.
I do too.
And there are parts that I always still like.
Sure.
A lot of the talent there I still like. The product as a whole, it's not there. Currently, I remember the last time that the product got me was probably around that, I guess, 2014, 2015 era, a little before that. I was on it.
Right.
It had me into it.
Because I remember us talking during that time. Because you were like, "Hey, give this thing another chance.
Give it a shot." But somewhere along in there, it got lost.
Yes,
and it got lost to me. I know a lot of people still watch it.
A
lot of people still swear by it. But for me, the product is and I want it to be. I really want it to be.
And Mike, you bring up a good point. And I don't want to spend too much time, because I know we'll probably end up having a series on this, what we're talking about now. But I'm with you, Mike. I want to be a professional wrestling fan.
Yes.
I want to. I want to go to work on Mondays.
Current.
Currently,
yes.
I want to be able to go into work on Mondays and like, oh my God, did you watch Raw?
Right.
Like it was back during the Attitude Era.
I don't know that we'll ever get that back.
I don't think we will.
Maybe not in our lifetime.
Not in our time. I don't think so. I hate to be pessimistic about it. But you know what, Mike? That's for another time, brother.
Yes.
Today's podcast.
Yes.
Mike, I'm going to be honest with you, man. This is the one, when we started throwing around ideas, this was the one that's like, I cannot wait to do this one.
Right.
And I guess that's why we're doing it kind of early in the podcast career. But this subject that we're going to cover today, Mike, covers my two passions in my life.
It's the perfect tag team.
It was without a doubt. Peanut butter and jelly.
Exactly.
It truly is, man. And without what I'm about to go into, we're going to do the big reveal here in a minute, people. Just hang with us. I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for this.
All right.
That I think it's fair to say. Michael, would you like to make the reveal?
Today we are going to be talking about music.
Yes, sir.
In professional wrestling.
Yes, sir. My two greatest passions, man. Music and professional wrestling.
Now, this is going to cover everything. This is going to cover entrances.
Yes. Special pay-per-view shows.
Pay-per-view promos.
Yes.
Music videos.
Yes.
Which kind of lost art now.
Very much.
With the product.
Very much.
Everything.
All aspects.
Anything having to do with music in professional wrestling.
Yes.
Even going outside that, album releases, and wrestlers releasing albums.
That is true.
If
yes,
you want
sir.
to call them released, or they escaped.
They escaped. Unfortunately, they didn't escape our ears for depending on what we're talking about.
Some were hits.
Some were great. Bad USA, brother. I love that song. That one's going to be prominent.
A lot of misses.
Be a Man by Macho Man.
Lord.
That one, I give the Macho Man so much credit for giving it a shot and trying to step into it, but wow. And some people love it. Dude, I know people who do love that Macho Man rap song.
Swear by
it. Once again, it's weird how opinions work. Just like with the current product. To me, yeah, man, I'm going to probably have to pass on to Be a Man. This track. But, Mike, let's take it to the beginning, brother. Something that we were discussing briefly on Friday. Who had the first intro music? You're more of an historian than I am. Because I've heard Michael Hayes claim this, and I've also heard Sergeant Slaughter claim this.
We're going to have to go way back.
Right.
We're going to have to go way, way back. The first recorded instance where a wrestler used an entrance theme would be Gorgeous George.
Oh, now this I wasn't aware of.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know it went that far back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, we're talking, oh my gosh, how long ago was that?
What, 30s, 40s?
1950s.
50s, okay.
50s.
Wow, man, I'm not in the story.
and would you imagine this? What song did he use?
I would assume it would be a classical piece. I would think, given his gimmick and everything.
Wild guess.
Mozart, perhaps?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Pomp and Circumstance.
The same as Macho Man.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Holy shit. See,
yes,
and you
sir.
know, I'm actually trying to watch my language a little bit too as the podcast goes on. If you notice from episode 1 to now, I'm still going to drop a fuck here and there just so everybody's on board. You know, this isn't a PG show.
Yeah.
But I am trying to watch my language, but I can't help but say, holy shit, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Because I was actually going to talk specifically about Macho Man.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that Gorgeous George originated that. Wow, man.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's
did.
a trip to me, Mike. I had no idea, man. Once again, I've learned something new.
Of course, you know, at that time, you know, Gorgeous George, one of the biggest heels in the wrestling business ever. At that time, you know, he used the grand entrance. You know, he used
kind of had that gay
music.
Thing. You know,
yeah, it was a little androgynous.
Yeah, that's a better word. Yes, sir. Better word.
But yeah, he used the grand entrance, and what better song?
What
better song to use?
It makes perfect sense, man.
Absolutely.
And you know,
so it got him even more heat. He was even more hated.
Yes, and he would even use. And I know this is about music and not about Gorgeous George, and we definitely should go back and cover Gorgeous George as being, in my opinion, probably the most influential heel of all time.
Absolutely.
I mean, everything came from him.
Yes,
he was the seed of every heat-seeking gimmick that's ever come before.
Even to Muhammad Ali.
Yes, sir, man. You know, he influenced everyone, even going into other sports. You know, so Mike, let's maybe come up into a little bit more modern, not necessarily modern as far as today goes, but
from there on, it was rare for anybody to have an entrance theme until about the late 70s. And they didn't really even use it as their theme, but you had people like Jimmy Valiant and Jerry Lawler in Memphis making their own
vignettes.
Well, no, they had done their own music.
Right. Oh, okay.
They released their own singles.
Right. Jimmy Hart as well, correct?
Jimmy Hart started out in music.
Okay.
Before wrestling.
Right.
He helped with like a one-hit wonder.
He did
with the band. I can't remember the name of the band at
but he does have a songwriting credit.
Keep on Dancing.
Yes,
and that was their big hit.
Right, and Jimmy Hart wrote and recorded and produced that. Correct. Right.
But Jimmy Valiant was releasing songs, you know, in Memphis in the late '70s when he had that big feud with Lawler. Lawler, you know, released his own song at that time. They're in Music City.
That makes perfect sense.
You know,
you are in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The home of Elvis Presley.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Right. Now, going forward a little bit to the early '80s, you're starting to see more people use entrance themes.
Right.
One of them being Sergeant Slaughter.
Coming out to the Marine Corps.
Absolutely.
Right.
On his suggestion to Vince Sr.
Correct. Right. This was when his baby turn was first happening, because he came in as a heel. And then when he went to baby and did the Pledge of Allegiance, which is a very iconic professional wrestling moment, that's when he started using the Marine theme. So that's where his claim to being the first.
One of the first.
Definitely one of the first.
One of the first in definitely in that era.
Right.
Now, also, you had Michael P.S. Hayes and the Freebirds. Now, the Freebirds would use the classic Lynyrd Skynyrd song Freebirds
yes,
for their entrances.
Right.
Until Michael Hayes recorded his single
Bad
Street USA.
Yes. And you know, Mike, I wanna pause just for a second, because I wanna, you know me, and you know me personally, and you know how much that song means to me.
Yes.
Freebird is my favorite song. You know, it's a little cliche. You know, I get a little heat sometimes from people. They think I'm joking a lot of times when I say, hey, Freebird is my favorite. It truly is. There's something about that song.
It is a badass song.
Oh man, to me, in my opinion, it's the greatest song ever written.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it truly is. You know, we just went to see Lynyrd Skynyrd a couple weeks ago, and I'm telling you, man, if you've never seen that song played live by the band, regardless of which incarnation of the band it is, but as long as it's under that banner, it's magical, man. And I was so ignorant to rock and roll growing up, and I know I mentioned last week, and I'll just go ahead and reiterate the point, man. In my household, when I was a kid, it was country music. It was very country music heavy. That's all we listened to. And the reason is, hold on, I had to make a little adjustment here on the audio. Sorry about that. And the reason was, man, that was just what my parents listened to. So I never knew, even Lynyrd Skynyrd was considered too heavy and hard for my house.
Like the Southern rock.
Right. Anything that wasn't on the mainstream country music channels I wasn't familiar with. So just a little funny story. Watching World Class Championship Wrestling on ESPN, here comes this tag team out playing this song. Then I'm like, what is that? You know, I'm a kid. I'm young. I'm 12, between 12 and 13, something like that. And I'm enamored. I'm like, wow, I've never heard anything like this. So I call a friend of mine. And it's kind of funny, you know, but just showing once again how just uneducated I was in these matters. I call him up and say, hey, man, who sings that song that the Freebirds come out to? And he's like, hey, man, it's called Freebird. You know, and I'm just like, and it's by a guy named Lynyrd Skynyrd. He died in a plane crash.
Right.
You know, but he's a great guitar player. You know, obviously there's a lot of, bullshit in that statement that I would have to go to learn. But, man, that started me on my path. And not only did that start me on the path of being a music lover, you know, but it also put me on the path of becoming a musician myself, you know. So I just I didn't want this podcast to go without me saying something about Freebird and about how much I love the song, how much it has meant to me over the years. And
well, when they would come out to that song, and if anybody's familiar with the song, it's one of those songs that it's not going to get you up off your feet in that first, that first couple minutes.
It shouldn't have worked.
It shouldn't have worked, but they come out just so
badass, man.
Smooth. And it is smooth and it's arrogant.
Yes.
It's just one of those, and they almost strut to this song.
They do strut, yes.
Just an arrogant strut.
Slow tempo.
To the ring. We are better than you. Yes. Georgia is better than Texas.
Yes, man. Attitude. Which was the soul of that feud.
Yeah.
Once again, man, I can't put it. And they were so cool coming out to the
song.
And it shouldn't have worked.
No, it shouldn't have worked. But by God, it did. It did. But to me, once they switched over to that Bad Street USA song, it amped it up.
It took it. And you know me, man, loving that song as much as I do, I'll be the first to tell you, there's a difference between loving a song on your own time, listen to your own records or whatever, and there's another loving a song with a wrestling entrance.
All right.
You know, we're going to talk a little bit about the Midnight Express, obviously at some point.
Yes.
But I think that's a good, for me personally, man, it's hard for me to sit down and listen to just the Midnight Express theme. I do like it. I do.
I differ on it. I could listen to that thing all
day.
Loop.
Right.
On a loop.
Like I said, man, it may not make my personal playlist, but name me a more badass entrance. I mean, which we're going to talk, we're going to discuss. We're
about to get to one.
Right.
We're about to get to one here in a minute. But we're going to pop in a couple other tunes in that same territory. World Class Championship Wrestling. Kerry Von Erich had a song I wasn't a big fan of until I saw Kerry Von Erich come down to the ring to this music, and that was Modern Day Warrior, Tom Sawyer,
yes,
by Rush.
Right. Another song that you would think maybe shouldn't work, but my God, it did. Especially given that he was the Modern Day Warrior.
Absolutely.
And you know how I feel about Rush, man. We just hit on two of my all-time favorites. You know,
Exactly.
You know, it's funny, Mike, because I'm going to talk a little bit about this personally as we go. But I have a trinity of bands. I have three that I can't really put one over the other. One is Lynyrd Skynyrd, which we just discussed. The other one is Black Sabbath, which we're obviously going to get to Black Sabbath. And then the other one's Van Halen. But two out of those three bands were introduced to me through professional wrestling.
Right.
Lynyrd Skynyrd and Black Sabbath.
Yes.
You know, to my knowledge, no one ever came out to Van Halen. I think that's a damn shame. But except for J.D. Styles when he was a babyface back in MWF.
I want to say, I want to say maybe the Rock and Roll Express at one time did.
I'm not sure.
In Memphis.
I'm not sure.
I know they had a video.
Oh, did they? Now this I wasn't aware of.
Lawler put together a video to jump for the Rock and Roll Express.
Oh, I had no idea. I did not know
to promote
that.
the Rock and Roll Express. But yeah, I was about to say, yeah, hey, we're hitting on a lot of bands that you are a big fan of.
Yes.
I would think if there was a Wolfman in wrestling, I'm sure we'd be talking about Warren Zevon at this point.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Which Warren Zevon will be a subject when we can get Wayne Sisk on the show. Wayne Sisk, if you're not listening, brother, I think we've given you a shout out every show, except for one. I think we missed him on the second one, but I think from this day forward, we got to figure out a way to get Wayne Sisk in.
We got to put the Wayne plug in,
and especially until he can get his ass up here to the Pud Cave. But
exactly.
that's coming up. Wayne Sisk, this one's for you, brother. But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, just kind of dovetailing, off the Rock and Roll Express, we got to talk about ELO.
Yeah.
Another.
That was definitely their big song, and that was the one I recognized them most
Me
for.
Too. Me too. Absolutely.
Now let's explain some of this too, as far as using music then, as opposed to using music now. And I'm talking about copyright established music, as far as that goes.
Yes. I have an opinion.
You could get away with it back then.
Right.
Because obviously the copyright. These were regional territories.
I was going to say it wasn't a national.
Local regional territories. It wasn't on a national level. It was on a big network.
Right.
You're talking about local channels that carried local wrestling.
And not only that, man, but professional wrestling back in that day was kind of considered lowbrow anyway.
Right.
So it wasn't really going to get on anybody's radar for the most part.
Now that changed around late '80s.
Right. With the expansion.
Absolutely. Anything like that, they had to start producing their own music.
Right.
And finding ways around that.
Right. And Mike.
Or what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a loophole type situation.
Loopholes, kind of that, or oh god, what is the free music? The public domain.
Public
Thank
domain.
you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, using public domain music. That was okay. You can get around with that.
Right.
But no, I mean, World Class was heavy. I mean, Fritz was, he knew, he kind of knew what was going on.
Right.
He was kind of hip to this stuff.
Right.
I imagine old Fritz being hip to anything. But he knew what was selling. He knew what was going to bring the young crowd in.
Exactly.
And it was going to be rock and roll and wrestling.
Exactly. And this is something that Vince would go on to make WrestleMania from, because it's
to market it.
Yes. Now Mike, I have a pretty strong opinion on the copyright situation with wrestling and music. I understand that music companies, record companies aren't getting paid out. I see that. I also understand how a wrestling promotion would rather use their own music, because that's an added revenue source. Now you can sell your CDs. Now
right.
You can, you have your own copyright music. But the one thing, man, that I've always, and I'm not, obviously, man, I'm not in the music business. Obviously, I'm not in any business. I don't know how these things work. But it's always kind of dumbfounded me that music companies wouldn't want their music being played to a wide audience. Every album I bought when I was a kid was strictly because I was watching on professional wrestling, man.
Yeah.
ZZ Top
yes.
got records off of me.
Yes.
Black Sabbath absolutely
Black Sabbath?
got sales off of me from professional wrestling. Lynyrd Skynyrd, man. I mean, ELO. It goes on. Basically, if you had a song back from, I would say, 1984 to 1987 on WWF or on NWA Jim Crockett, I was probably going to buy the album that song was off of.
Right.
Why would a record company not want that free publicity? Once again, man, I don't know. I don't understand the ins and outs.
This is an era back where you just couldn't download songs.
No, man. MTV hadn't been around that long.
Songs. Well, you could pirate songs, but
you had to do it off the radio.
You had to do it off the radio, and you had to be really quick on the cassette recorder.
Yes, sir.
You had to be really quick on that. You better get it.
Now, don't get me wrong, man. It's also about the time those double cassette decks started coming out. Absolutely. So, brother, you thought I worked for Sony. There's a bad motherfucker I was putting out. Damn, man, I was a pirate before pirates were cool, man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, I just got this new Lynyrd Skynyrd tape. here, have a copy.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that was going on too. But I never understood the logic of, well, we don't want our songs reaching this demographic of people who may not even know what rock and roll is like I was.
Exactly.
I didn't know what this stuff was, man. You know, and I don't want to talk more about the business aspect as much as I want to talk about the songs themselves and their influences on us personally. But that was something that always kind of boggled my mind. Like I said, I could see it if it was like Vince McMahon or Crockett or Dusty, be like, you know what? We're no longer going to give exposure to these rock and roll groups. We're going to do our own thing where we can sell our own music. I can see that logic. But the record companies being like, no, stop playing our songs for all these people. It makes no sense to me, man. No. They may have not made a lot of money, but I can guarantee they made a little bit off this kid right here.
Exactly.
They did at least one person.
All of us.
A
lot of us.
Right.
That was the way. And also, I mean, sometimes you just didn't know who this artist was.
Right. Well, it's like with Freebird. I had to call a friend. Hey, man, who sings the song Freebird? Or, you know, well, it's called Freebird.
Right.
It's one of those things that's comical now. But at the time, I had no exposure.
Exactly. And
professional wrestling gave me that exposure. And why a music company wouldn't want that continued exposure, I don't know, man. Once again, I'm not a businessman. I'm not in the industry, but it just doesn't seem logical to me. But whatever, man. That's my soapbox as far as that goes. Let's get back to some good music.
Now, let's get back into probably one of the biggest ones at that time, and that would be the Road Warriors using Black Sabbath's Iron Man to come down.
Changed my life.
Oh my!
It changed my life, Mikey.
Oh my God! What the first time I remember, and every time after. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Every time after, and I still watch it and still get goosebumps.
Yeah,
goosebumps off of it.
Absolutely.
And just you hear that drum beat, you hear that guitar just echo out, and then
that
you
first
see
riff
them coming.
Oh, dude!
And then you see them running,
and
they hit the ring.
Destruction.
And they kill everything that is breathing in that ring.
As that music jams, man,
it
plays.
As it's still going.
And I mean, a lot of people in the heavy metal community, because I consider myself to be a metalhead. I love all music. I love all types of music, but heavy metal, especially from that era, the hard rock, late 70s type, power rock, geezer rock, as some people call it now. Yeah. That is what what draws me in, man. That's my favorite type of music. And just hearing that riff, but like I said, man, a lot of people in the heavy metal community does consider Iron Man to be the greatest heavy metal song ever recorded, and man, I can't really argue with that.
I mean,
I think for us being our age and being into this song as long as we have, maybe it gets a little played out. Maybe,
right? Oh, yeah.
We
heard it every time,
a million times.
But there again, we're used to it. Where this, you're going to hear it for like a minute.
You're right.
You're going to hear that first minute, maybe minute and a half of that song.
Well, you're witnessing a murder.
You're witnessing two people get killed.
I mean, like, literally. They would beat the shit out of these guys, man.
So, I mean, once we hear that, you may be the same as I am on this. Once you hear that song 2 minutes, 3 minutes into it, I'm good.
I'm good, yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, you got it. Right.
I'm good. I don't have to hear the rest of it.
I
just hear that first part, and in my mind, I'm seeing these...
A hawking animal.
These post-apocalyptic...
barbarians, man, yes.
Just running and killing.
Destroying everything in their path, man. It's like a machine.
Every time I see it.
It was like the music of Black Sabbath was like the growling of an engine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That it's just, and it's destruction, man. And you talk about how music helped put over the entire package of a tag team or a faction or even a person. And I think, Mike, to me, this is a great segue. And we've mentioned this before, we've already touched on it. But I have a favorite wrestling intro song.
Okay.
And that is the Midnight Express.
Absolutely. Without a doubt, one of my favorite. It just... For some reason, and this is, it borders on disco and new wave.
Yeah, techno a little bit, electronic.
Yeah,
it's electronic.
And it was actually, from the film
Yes,
of
sir.
the same name, Midnight Express.
Giorgio, and I cannot pronounce.
Giorgio Moroder.
Yes, who has? If anybody's not familiar with his work, this man is
Oh.
highly respected.
He's a
He's
genius.
he is a genius, and if you're into that type of music, I tend to tell metalheads and guitar fans he's like the Eddie Van Halen
Yes.
of the electronic music scene.
Absolutely.
That's how over and how
Yeah.
great and genius this man is. This is not a scrub, people. This is not somebody who just threw some shit down on a keyboard. This is a musician. This is a genius. And my God, man.
And this, we didn't find this out until years later.
Right.
We had no idea. We just knew the music was from the movie.
The movie. Right.
That was it.
And
we had never seen the movie because the movie was kind of.
It's a little mature, I think, for our
it was definitely
age.
Definitely mature. It had a lot of to do with drugs.
Yes.
And it's a crazy movie.
I've never seen it, man. I've never actually sat down to watch that movie.
Uh,
I keep looking for Jim and Dennis and Bobby, and I always get disappointed.
But that was the thing, if it didn't have anything to do with wrestling,
I didn't really care. I didn't need it. I didn't need
or
it.
horror,
Yeah,
horror
right.
Or wrestling. It doesn't have anything to. I don't want to see that.
Didn't need it.
No.
And man, I think just cause as I mentioned a little earlier, the Midnight Express. And now don't misunderstand me. I'm not going to say I've never sat down and checked it out and jammed it, because I have. But it's not necessarily going to go on a playlist, quote unquote. Iron Man will. Freebird. I mean, Freebird's going to be the first one on my list.
Yeah.
But Iron Man will definitely make a list. The Midnight Express music.
I can guarantee you, I can pull up some of my playlists off YouTube,
and
you will see on probably every
Everything.
playlist of everything.
Well, the thing that I loved about it, coming from that background of just having one genre of music, that I was exposed to, then hearing some like Lynyrd Skynyrd, man, was a great crossover, going from country music into rock and roll, because they're kind of, Skynyrd, even though they were a heavy band, like I think a lot of people don't realize how heavy Skynyrd was in their time, man. I mean, they weren't just like a lot of people think they're country rock. Nah, man, they're straight heavy rock and roll, heavy rock and roll.
Yeah.
But I still think it was a nice transition. But now you're going from like Alabama that I listen to at home to Georgia.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the music itself, even though the music was a driving factor. But you also had Jim Cornette, man.
And the song itself has this crazy atmosphere.
It does. Yes. It builds.
Yeah.
There is something magical about that song with those guys. Now, I don't know if you could take different guys and put them with that music or vice versa. I think it was the perfect marriage of music, performers, and just overall packaging.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you had all of it in spades, man. You had Now, I know me and you kind of different with which version of Midnight Express we like better. I'm more of a Stan Lane guy. You're more of a Dennis Conner guy. But I think we both can agree that both iterations of this team were outstanding.
Absolutely.
I mean, they were both, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I mean, I think both of these eras are great. But to me, man, when you had Big Bubba added to it, and like I said, I was always a little bit more of a fan of Stan. But either one, when you had Bubba, you had the Midnight Express itself, and then you had Cornette leading the charge with his tennis racket, and that music pumping.
All from the dark side.
All from the dark side,
All
brother.
from the dark side.
And like I said, man, it was magical. It was probably one of the few.
Well, see, here's the thing, too. I mean, and it wasn't country, it wasn't a rock song. Like I said, it was pure electronic. You mind the South.
No.
Oh, come on.
Dude.
A lot of your bass is not going
No.
for the electronic stuff or disco-type stuff
No.
or anything like that.
No, they probably even considered it to be somewhat, kind of gayish.
Yes.
I mean, just to call it what it is, man,
Yeah.
which is why it was genius for a Hill team to use this music.
Yes.
But to me, man, as a kid watching something, because these guys were just completely, they were like the Road Warriors in a way.
Mm-hmm.
They were just completely on their own planet.
Right.
Whereas the Road Warriors were more gimmicked up. They were.
Yeah.
They truly were. They had the big muscles and the crazy hair and the paint. The Midnight Express were technicians, man, but they cheated.
Yes.
They had a manager who just, you know how I feel about Corny. I mean, we will absolutely have a manager's edition of the podcast. Another one I'm looking very forward to. But man, just that package. But the music, in my opinion, the Midnight Express's music is what put it over so well, and it's why it probably stands out as my favorite theme music, man. I have a few. Sabbath, obviously. Freebird, obviously. Bass Street, obviously. But man, to me, the Midnight Express's theme will always be my favorite wrestling intro music for what it was and for what it did.
Yes.
That I can't put anything over it.
No. No.
I mean, like I said, Iron Man and Road Warriors are close, but that's mine.
You know, and there again, you've got the counter to that, which is the pure rock and roll. You know.
Yes, great segue.
Rock and Roll Express is, you know,
Yellow.
Rock and Roll is King
by Electric Light Orchestra.
Yes.
And man, once again, perfect.
That is a get go song, get up and
boogie.
Yes.
It's a boogie song,
Yeah,
man. You get up to
it
boogie
is.
to it. It is, and it fit them like a glove.
Yes.
And you know, Mike, you're right, man. When you have that contradiction of musics,
Yeah.
and the Battle of the Expresses, shit.
All right. Well, since
Wow.
you mentioned boogie, let's talk Boogie Woogie.
You know, the
Man.
Boogie Woogie Man going to come
Going
up
back
to the boy
Going
from
back-
New York City. Well,
Going
even
to
before
New York.
that.
Yeah.
Even before that.
Even before that, you know, with his own stuff. But what really put it over is when he came to Mid Atlantic and used that "Boy from New York City" song.
Yes. It fit.
It fit.
And Boogie Woogie, now if the Puds out there listening haven't put it together yet, we're huge Jimmy Valiant fans. We're huge Paul Jones fans.
Hello, Jimmy.
I love the Boogie Woogie Man. And Mikey, I want a quick side note. I know we've discussed the Boogie Woogie Man for 3 straight weeks, but I went back and I looked up some of that footage. I added some links to our YouTube. Did you know the Boogie Woogie Man, as far as Big Mama's concerned, he wasn't a free spirit, man. It wasn't like an open relationship. It wasn't free love. That son of a bitch was a straight up pimp, bro. The Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, is a straight up pimp, man. Pimping is not easy.
Oh my gosh.
Nah, dude. I watched the video. I watched the footage, the interview. No, man, there is no free love. There is no man, we all give. Nah, man, he was a pimp. He was a straight up pimp. Straight up pimping, man. That's all I got to say about the Boogie Man. He's pimping.
Right.
He's straight pimping.
There you
But that I just had to get that out because when I'm watching that video, I'm like, holy shit, man.
Well,
He's pimping.
Yeah. Yeah.
In every strictly,
Yeah.
dude. He told Big Mama to go off with Dusty Rhodes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, man, we already covered that. We might go into Big Mama. We may go into Big Mama a little bit later.
Will we?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know, but okay, back to the music, brother.
I gotta make a phone call right quick if that's the case.
God damn. I gotta get my last will and testament in order.
Oh,
get all my affairs in order, but what a way to go, brother. But anyway, man, Boy from New York City coming out to some jamming music.
Oh my God.
He gets the people. He gets the people alive, man.
People loved it.
Oh, they did. I loved it. Because he worked it so well. He danced to it, man. And usually he was another one of those guys when he would go against an enhancement. I don't like using the term jobber. I don't know why. I just don't like using that term. But whenever he would go against enhancement, a lot of times that music would play.
Right.
Until, the matches were 30 seconds long,
done.
By the time the guy in the back was, podding it down, hell, the match was over. But once again, it added to it.
Right.
And I think it made Boogie Woogie Man even that more popular, that crazier. I mean, once again, it showed how music can help enhance, man.
Right.
If not downright make you.
Yeah. And we're spending a lot of time in Mid-Atlantic. And
That's
I know
true.
a lot of different promotions used a lot of different music.
Sir.
But this is the stuff that we saw
And came up
in
on.
this area.
Right.
This is a lot of guys are starting to use music.
Right.
But a lot of guys aren't.
That's true, too.
That's
true.
And for a good reason, I would say. Some aren't, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't follow this trend. It was becoming a trend. Just for that, even to get the crowds pumped up, get the wrestlers pumped up themselves. But a lot of guys didn't. I would somebody that comes to mind would be like an Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh yeah.
Did not use me.
Yeah.
Why? Why would
it
you
would
have
take
to?
away. I think it would take away.
Absolutely.
Mike, and it's funny, and I know, like you just said, man, we do stick around the Mid-Atlantic where we were from, but just thinking about WWF, man, I went back and watched the Hogan Andre WrestleMania 3 match about a month or so ago. I watched the whole show, and I realized that Andre didn't have music.
No.
And I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
What would that would actually have taken away, but the largest crowd, which, let's be completely honest, man, that match is the quintessential moment in professional wrestling history. It really is. I don't care if you're a traditionalist. I don't care if you're brand new to this thing. I don't care if you were watching wrestling in the 70s.
That was definitely the peak of the 80s boom.
And I even will say as far as wrestling in general, man. I mean, as far as a moment.
That was definitely a milestone moment.
It was definitely a moment, man. It's definitely up there. But once again, the lack of music enhanced it.
Right.
And you know, man, we cannot talk about music in professional wrestling and not bring up Real American. You can't do
true.
it. We got to talk about the wrestling album a little bit.
Got to talk about that. The Real American, Hulk Hogan.
Or Barry and Mike, you know.
Exactly, because it didn't start out with Hogan.
That's true.
It started out with Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham.
The USA Express.
US Express.
Right. And let's be honest, man, Hulk Hogan's theme music for that time.
If you ever want to go back to it, if you ever want to hear it, you know, obviously, you know, look it up on YouTube. But it was actually put on.
It was on the wrestling album.
It was on there, and it was also on the cartoon.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
It was actually promo. It was the
That's
theme
right.
song for the Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling.
That is right. Yes.
Which was starting to become a marketable thing for Vince at that time because he was looking at getting into the MTV era.
Yes.
Bringing MTV into the wrestling.
Which he did with great success,
With
man.
Cyndi Lauper.
And you know, Vince McMahon also wanted to be a concert promoter.
Yes.
You know, before he was into wrestling. So Vince McMahon, you know, you talk about Fritz having his pulse on music. You know, Vince did as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think Vince maybe even more so because he had his pulse on MTV.
He had it on. He definitely had it on the biggest outlet.
Yes.
For that and for the new generation of music. Now Crockett Sr. did a lot of music promotions in Charlotte.
Dusty was big on
Dusty
that, man.
was
Dusty
big.
knew music.
Dusty knew a lot of pop music in this area. You know, as far as pop country, old country,
Yes.
stuff like that. Willie.
Waylon, David Allan Coe. Now I'm not talking about actual theme songs, but people he would tour with, or bring on the bash.
The bashes, you know, he would feature them heavily. You know, Willie Nelson.
Wait.
Like I said, David Allan Coe,
Yes.
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon, you know, who's my favorite country singer is Waylon, you know. But, you know, we once again, we would be, I think, in the wrong if we didn't bring up Born to Boogie by Dusty. You know, Dusty's theme music would change. You know, sometimes he'd come out to Bob Seger.
Sometimes
he'd come out to Hank Jr. I remember him more or less coming out to Hank Jr.
Hell, I remember him at Starrcade '84 coming out to Prince's Purple Rain.
There you go, man. I forgot about that, but you're right. And, hey... And you know, Mike, another great segue.
Which was holy. Where did that come from?
And it worked.
But it
worked.
It was the biggest single, one of the biggest singles of that year.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't go anywhere and not hear Purple Rain.
What a great time that had to be alive, man. I mean, that's one of the greatest songs. You know, another one of my all-time favorites. Yeah. But Dusty also, you know, talking about Starrcade, you know, Mike, we were talking earlier when we began the podcast here about when the music started. You know, going back to Gorgeous Georgia, which, wow, like I said, man, holy shit. There's my cursing for the day. You know, I had no idea. But, you know, the earliest recorded music that I remember as a fan was Ric Flair in 2001.
2001
Space Odyssey. And that was the first time I remember that was either Starrcade 83 or 4.
Yes.
And they played the entire song. Then he walked out. But, you know, I think it's a testament. You know how I feel about Ric Flair, man. Yes. In kayfabe, I've always gave him heat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've always hated on Ric Flair, quote unquote, but I love Ric Flair,
yes.
man. Ric Flair is
he's the man.
He's the man.
He's the man.
He is absolutely the man. And you know what? And that goes perfectly with what I was just about to say. When your theme music from a major motion picture, and 2001 Space Odyssey is widely accepted as one of a great movie. I personally didn't get into it that much, but it was okay. But anyway, you know, society itself views that movie as very it's a very good movie. You know, but
it's not Star Trek.
No, Jesus Christ, man, no, easy. But live long and prosper, brother. But I do think it's a testament to how popular Ric Flair is, that his music is no longer connected to that movie. When people hear that, and I'm talking mainstream people here, man. I'm not talking about fans like us. I'm talking about your average, everyday person. When they hear that music, they do not think of that movie.
That's Ric Flair's music.
That's Ric Flair's music.
That's Ric Flair.
That is no longer Stanley Kubrick's music.
Yeah.
That is now, and has been for decades, generation even, Ric Flair's music, man. And you know, like I said, once again, we would be in the wrong, I think, to have a show about music and wrestling and not talk about that.
Right.
Because not only that, Mikey, but that music has stayed with him. How many other wrestlers have had the longevity that Ric Flair's had and is still using the same exact intro music? There's not a lot, man. Hogan, I would give it to Hogan. But even then, man, he was using that music.
It took him a couple years
to get it.
So yeah, a couple years after that, yeah.
Sure, I would put, another one I'd put over would probably be Shawn Michaels, believe it or not. I would actually put, because he did his own custom music, and
that's true.
I would actually put Shawn's up, and Macho Man, obviously.
Macho Man, obviously,
man, God rest his soul. But and I guess you could maybe say Bad Street, but man, a lot of people on the street don't really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But well, I guess they might not know Shawn Michaels' music either, but you know what I'm saying.
It would be close. You might get away with that, but I would think between Flair and Hogan and Macho Man, those three, you would say yes. That's
quintessential.
Well, obviously, in the modern era, right. Stone Cold.
Oh, yes.
But there again, Stone Cold had several different incarnations of his own theme music.
Sure did, man. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say without a doubt, Flair has the most recognizable theme song ever. Ever, man, ever. And like I said, I think it, and just talking about Ric Flair, and I know we're probably going to do a 5-month series on Ric Flair at some point, and we're going to be lucky to get it all in 5 months. But I just want to say a little side note about Rick. I was thinking about him the other day. Have you noticed how Ric Flair has become like more mainstream popular these last couple of years? Yes.
Like outside of wrestling, how like a lot of new rappers
are
really
using music.
Because man, all these a lot of these rap songs talk about the stuff Ric Flair was talking about back in the '80s about having the money, having the girls, his watch costs more than your house, these type of things. The rappers that are young and up and coming rappers, and I love that, man. I love seeing Rick mainstream. I love, because you could argue that that's fairly new for Rick.
Right.
Hogan's always been in the mainstream, for good or bad.
Yes.
Rick, Rick was always more of a niche, but now he's mainstream, dude.
Right.
And I think that's great. But Mike, we were talking about a little bit of WWF and modern music, or modern wrestling, and I know this isn't necessarily modern. It's about 20 years old at this point. But for me, when I think of music and professional wrestling, I think of it when I started watching it, and you can go back into the histories, but I can trace it up to about ECW.
Wow.
Was
okay.
about the time, definitely the time that recorded music was still being used.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And and there goes again, they were a local promotion on local TV.
Yes, sir.
Could get away with that.
Right. Because the internet was still in its infancy at this point.
Right.
It was around, but a lot of people had it.
Right.
And I don't know if it was even capable of having these video streams and things like this.
Right.
But Mike, before we get into because I definitely want to talk about some ECW theme music, I got to talk about Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, man.
Yeah. Well, see, we knew going into this we're probably gonna miss a good bit of everything.
I have Jimmy Garvin in my notes. I have 4 things on my notepad. I know you people at home can't see it. I literally have 4 things, and it was to include Game Swap, to include the Millennium Wrestling Federation, which we will get you guys at the end of the show, ECW, which we're about to talk about, and Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. That's all I have on my notes.
Right.
But I knew I definitely had to talk about Gorgeous Jimmy, man.
Jimmy Garvin, man.
Brother. Talk about a sharp-dressed man.
That's going back to the world class, and that and going into the AWA, NWA.
Yes.
Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ
Top.
And it was electric.
Dude, when that music, for one, let's just call it, that song's badass.
Yeah.
That song's badass.
Yeah.
It's a classic, man. It's one of those songs that never gets old. It's one of those songs, man, I don't care what generation you're born into. Yeah. You're going to like this song. If not, then I don't know. I have nothing I can do for you.
All right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, ain't nobody perfect, brothers. But, man, when Jimmy would come out, the Sharp Dressed Man, and Jimmy is one of those heels that you just could not boo, man. You just could not hate on Gorgeous Jimmy.
It was tough because Jimmy was so funny and he
was
so good.
And the music.
It's not my fault.
It's not his fault, man.
It's not my fault.
And he smiled all the time.
I'm going to beat your brains in, and it's not going to be my
fault. And he's smiling, and he's talking about Wahoo McDaniels being a stinky Indian, as he's teasing his hair. And he's
talking about his squeeze.
Precious. Who's right there, keeping the air fresh for him.
Oh.
And when you add on top of his his charisma was 10 out of 10.
Over the top.
His work rate was great.
Yes.
I mean, he could go bell to bell with anybody.
Yes.
I mean, man, those matches he had with Ric Flair were tremendous, man.
Yeah,
I mean, those are tremendous matches. But Mike, when you want
the only thing I had against Jimmy
was his brother? No.
No.
Come on.
His brainbuster.
Yeah,
I did not like his brainbuster finish. Murdoch had
the best
Dick
brainbuster.
Murdoch had the best brainbuster.
That shit looked like it kill you for real.
God, your brains.
Jimmy Garvin's was a suplex.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a suplex. It was a suplex that went a little wrong at the end.
Yeah,
it looked like it got a little botch.
Yeah,
you know.
It was like you're sitting down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, Mike, going back to just how cool he was and how he was trying to be a heel.
Super cool.
But let me ask you, man, even with all these great things like his charisma, did the music of ZZ Top not just add to the part of, damn, it's so hard to hate on this guy? How could you not go, yes?
Oh.
How could you not jump out of your chair and start just pumping your fist?
Yeah, we're just strutting.
Yeah, and he's doing his hair, man, and Precious is doing the air freshener. I mean, once again, you're talking about a full production, a full package here, man. And that music was such a huge part of that presentation. Yeah. I don't know if you could have done it with custom-made music.
No,
I just don't.
It wouldn't have had the same impact.
I don't think so, man.
No,
I don't think it would have.
No.
Like I said, man, it's just so. And it's not just about music itself, Mike. Because let's be honest, man, there's been some pretty cool custom-made songs. Yeah. You know, we'll get into some WWF stuff here in a little while. WCW as well, man. They the NWO theme.
Right.
We will not end this without that because that's high on the list. But you know, but before we get into NWO, man, we talked about Jimmy. I want to make sure Jimmy got his shout out. You know, I had to, man.
But okay, let's turn this on the flip before we get off of this subject of ZZ Top's Sharp Dressed Man. On that, you also had the Fantastics using that same theme in UWF, which I don't know. It happened.
I forgot about that.
It happened in different territories.
Yes.
With certain songs.
That's right.
That somebody could use one that you established with another wrestler.
Because they're gone. They've moved on.
Yeah, moved on. Or you're not even seeing what's going on over here, as opposed to what you're seeing in your territory.
Right. In other words, there's no way to know somebody's biting off your music if you have no. Because even the magazines wouldn't talk about that.
Right.
So there was absolutely no way to know. Like me and you would not know that the Fantastics are using this song in Memphis. Let's say at the time we wouldn't know that.
Yeah, so they're using it in the UWF and Mid South, and they're getting over like crazy.
Oh yeah, man, yeah. Well,
but
that was a great
thing. It's definitely a different feel with it.
Oh yeah.
From what Jimmy was doing with his and what the Fantastics were doing with theirs.
And I think a lot of that might have to do with the fact, man, that the Fantastics were babies and they're trying to get over. Where Jimmy was just being cocky. Yeah. He was so cocky and cool about it, man. You could not. We definitely should do a podcast on anti-heroes in wrestling. Yes. You know, about the people like the Horsemen are a great example of that, man. The Horsemen had probably just as many fans as Dusty did.
Yes.
You know, Jimmy Garvin. Man, I was the biggest Mark kid. I know I've said it and I will say it again. But man, I love the Midnight Express and I love Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. Yes. And I think. Well, I don't think it, man. I know that a lot of the reasons I love both of these, competitors, the tag team and the singles was their music.
Right.
It comes back to that. Man, my daddy, I feel so bad for Dad. Because as I was getting into this music, my wants for like toys and things like that started turning to cassette tapes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I couldn't go to the flea market without, hey, I want that ZZ Top, man. That's Gorgeous Jimmy's music. And Dad being cool, he'd hook me up a little bit here and there. He'd throw me a tape. We'd go to the flea market and get the bootleg guy. So
Yep. I tell you, and speaking of that, one of my first albums ever, and I'm talking album LP that I ever bought was Michael Jackson's Thriller.
That was mine. That was actually mine. Yes.
I bought it from Sky City with my own money.
Me too. Well, not my money, but yeah.
And the very first song on that album is Beat It.
Beat It, yeah.
And you know how I know about that?
Who came out to that?
Manny Fernandez.
I knew somebody when you started talking about it.
Manny Fernandez came when that hit.
And see, there you go, man. Prime example.
Boom, right there.
Same thing.
Yep.
When I figured out who ZZ Top was, and I figured out who Lynyrd Skynyrd was once again, when I figured out Black Sabbath, especially the Sabbath one. Because when I heard Iron Man, once again, like Freebird changed my life, Lynyrd Skynyrd changed my life. But when I heard Iron Man, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
That was the great thing about heavy metal back in those days.
This is dark
This
stuff.
It's ominous.
Oh,
this is scary. And when you had that little bit of satanic thing going on, you know, like Ozzy's a devil worshiper,
right.
People killing themselves. You know,
yeah, especially in the 80s.
This was in the news.
Yes.
This was like
this was fresh.
This was front page. Kiss was another one. You know, the Judas Priest stuff was about to even. It had either started or was about to get started.
Yes.
But Ozzy was in the news. Suicide Solution was the big thing.
Yes.
Ozzy's the singer of Black Sabbath and Iron Man. So you already kind of hear that on the news. You already kind of have a little suspicion of these things. And when you hear that Iron Man, it's ominous, man. It's dark. It's written in minor keys. You know, it's just so... It scares you.
Yes.
And then when you see the Road Warriors, who I loved.
Yes.
Road Warriors were my favorite tag team, man, of all time. Of all time, man. They are my favorite tag team. I love the Midnight Express. When those two clash, oh, Jesus, man.
Yes.
Just greatness upon greatness.
Yes.
But, yeah, there was something about Iron Man, dude. It just was.
Yes.
And, even with the Midnight Express theme, even though it didn't scare me,
no,
it pumped me up, though. Yeah. It's like, wow, man, this is super cool. You know, it's like something I haven't heard. But, you know, let's go ahead. Let's get into ECW, man. I know I touched on that. Because, once again, I think ECW, and we will, once again, dude, I'm sure we'll do a podcast on ECW. But to me, ECW was the last great era of music in wrestling.
Yes.
You know, because it wasn't custom.
Yes.
You know,
right.
You know, I think of the Sandman coming out to Enter Sandman.
Oh, and he's coming out to a song that I detest.
Right. Well, now it's kind of like it, you know.
Detested this song. Because, honestly, when this song came out, it was on the radio.
All the time.
Non-stop.
MTV. Non-stop.
Still is.
Yeah, they still ever play it, man. That's something about the radio. They do tend to, you know, it's okay, man, it's a good thing, but you don't have to.
Right. And everybody treats it as the only Metallica song that has ever been.
And anybody who knows Metallica knows the Black Album was their downfall.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, man.
It was their most successful album, but
it was also
as
artists go, I think.
As Metallica as a whole.
I think it's when they really started dropping, man. They went pop.
Yeah.
I mean, they went poppy, man.
There's
no man.
them.
Hey, man, they're doing it. They're about to sell out coming up in a couple months here in Charlotte, man. God bless them.
Yeah, good for them.
Good for them, man. They put out, you know, 2, maybe 3 great albums, 4 kind of if you count the Kill 'Em All.
Early stuff, yeah.
Oh man, Master of Puppets and Ride of Lightning are masterpieces.
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing greater, but man, that was Kill 'Em All's good. It's okay.
Right.
And Justice for All's okay. There's no bass in it, but whatever. As a bass player, I'm a little shitty on that, but whatever. Yeah. But anyway, man, yes, the Sandman even can make Mikey Payne.
Oh, I know. When I heard that, you know, the Sandman's doing his deal with that. I mean, you know, I accept this.
Yes. It was badass.
This is all right.
It fit.
This is all right.
And it was the first Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But here's the thing, that you heard that whole song with Sandman.
Because he milked it, man.
You heard that whole song.
And that's not because he's wrestling to it.
No.
Because we're about to go into somebody else. I'm about to get into the Gangstas here in a minute.
He is just drinking beer the whole time. He's
hitting himself with a can, you know.
He's still out on the outside of the ring.
He's
in the
putting
crowd.
Around.
He's drinking beer. All right, here, let's have another one. Drinking beer. It's a long song, so yeah, we're gonna have a lot of beer.
He's gonna be buzzing, man. There's even footage going around of him actually throwing up before he gets it. And I've always said the Sandman
you can drink a 6-pack, you know, as long as that song is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. Maybe a 12, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you know. And that was one thing I always say about Sandman, dude. That was the original Stone Cold. I mean, it really was. Stone Cold
really
was all over that gimmick. Yes. But you know, who else did we have, man? We had Raven. Raven's music, man, to the Offspring. Yes, sir. Keep them separated. Or what's the actual name of the song?
Come Out and Play.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. Great. I mean, great stuff, man. Who else was around? I can't remember what Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer's Alice in Chains.
Yes, Man in the Box. Yes. I was trying to remember what that was.
Yeah.
But to me, the best ECW music. And we got to go because we're changing genres a little bit, man. We've mostly been talking about rock and roll, metal. Now, and rap music had been introduced through the New Breed.
We talked about that.
Yes,
with the New Breed and using the Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Rights.
Right, which, now let's be completely honest, man. Now that to me, once again, was my first introduction to rap music.
Absolutely.
But the Beastie Boys were always kind of on that because of the time they came out.
That Def Jam kind of, in between genres. You got the mix of metal that New York metal and rap.
Yeah, and even a little bit of punk.
Yes.
You know, absolutely. So the Beastie Boys, they were technically rap music. Fight for Your Right is technically considered a rap song. I think some people can argue that because they do use live instruments. It's a great song, man.
Yes.
I love it. To this day, it's one of my favorite songs. But as far as hardcore rap music, I go to the Gangstas. Using
Gangstas.
And man, in my opinion,
And this is New Jack and Mustafa.
And anybody that's not familiar with New Jack, I highly recommend going on and checking some of his shoot interviews and some of his workout.
Ooh.
This guy is nuts. He's the real deal, man. I got to be real cool what I say about New Jack. I know we on the podcast, we on the low end, but if somehow or another he got wind, I don't want the man coming after me because, brother, that guy ain't no joke, man. I think he's got 3 or 4 justifiable homicides. Ooh. He was a bounty hunter. Yeah. This guy's killed people, man. So, I mean, so... But I'll tell you what else he killed, and that was the crowd, man. When they would come out to Natural Born Killers by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre. Now, me being a rap fan, you know me, Mike, I'm a huge hip-hop fan, especially from the, I'd say the 80s.
He wasn't killing the crowd.
Well, but he was killing them with being a badass.
He was killing them with being a badass. He wasn't killing the crowd. He wasn't,
Literally, well, depending on the crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
But, man, they would play this entire song. While they worked their matches.
Oh God, the whole
show. The whole match.
And
they would do it on a loop.
On a loop.
The song didn't end until the match was over.
Nope.
And if you're not, we're going to put some links to these songs, man. I'm going to get some links on our YouTube. If you're not familiar with the song "Natural Born Killers" by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, you're doing yourself a disservice every moment you go without hearing this. It's heavy.
It is heavy.
It's one of the heaviest songs ever
Just
recorded.
imagine beating somebody's ass to that song on a loop.
On a loop for about 10 minutes, man.
I think that was probably New Jack's life for real.
For real, man. Whenever he would go on a job to do his bounty hunting, I could see him putting that shit on and just beating the fuck out of somebody, man. And that song, and just to give you a little background on this song, once again, I just, me and Mike just said, it's very heavy. It's a heavy rap song.
Oh, yeah.
The lyrics are just,
dark.
It's dark, man. It's heavy, it's dark, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. And I know we have a mutual friend of ours, a guy named Christo, who started out in the wrestling business with us. Christo, I hope you're listening, brother. If you're not, then we're going to have to get on to you about that. But the reason I'm bringing up Christo, and I know some people out there may or may not know this, man, he hates rap music. He hates rap music, always has hated rap music. He is a rock and roll guy. He loves the Rolling Stones. He's just an old school classic rock.
Yeah.
AC/DC type.
Right.
That's kind of his style of music. Hates rap music, loves this song, and he loves it because he's a wrestling fan, and he was introduced to this through the Gangstas, through ECW. And I remember us having a conversation back in the day. We went to the mall, and he bought this album. And I was like, Christo was buying a rap album. I know a lot of people's like, who the fuck cares about some guy named Christo, blah, blah, blah. But if you know this guy, you understand how big of a deal this is.
Yeah.
And how fundamentally mind-blown I was when he bought this. That's just a little testament to how honest to God badass Natural Born Killers is. Once again, I will put a link to that one. And once again, just like Mikey said, imagine watching a couple badass. Mustafa and New Jack were the real deal, man. They were cool as shit. They were badasses, and they would just go in there and beat the shit out of you. With weapons. They would.
And a soundtrack.
And a
soundtrack. Just beating ass.
And there's no other song I think that could fit.
No.
There's no other, man, because they were the Gangstas, so they had gangster rap music, and they had the heaviest, in my opinion, probably the heaviest gangster rap song ever put down, man.
Sure.
It is so good.
For sure.
Anybody I'm missing in ECW?
Wow, okay. Let's see. There were a lot, you had a lot of guys that came in and did a lot of stuff. Those definitely are standouts. I think, Just Incredible, did his with, maybe not so much a mainstream band as far as Prong.
But they were snap your neck. Yeah, that was big around the metal community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prong was huge at that time.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to think of anybody else.
Well,
like I said, we're gonna miss stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Shane Douglas.
Oh my God, man! How did we forget that one?
We didn't.
How did I forget that one, dude? Perfect Strangers.
Well, I almost did for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, that is one of my all-time
favorite.
Yeah. Who would have thought? But my God, it's so perfect. You know what I hate about that song is that I didn't think about it being intro music myself.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I hate about that song being intro music is I didn't think of it because fucking is perfect.
It's perfect.
Once again, if
everything about that song,
it's
the
perfect.
way it goes, yeah,
it's perfect.
Oh yeah.
Once again, people, I would definitely link to Perfect Strangers because it is a tremendous song. One of my all-time favorites. Yeah. And once again, I was introduced to that song through wrestling. And Mike, this is at a time of my life where I was familiar with Deep Purple.
Yes,
I knew these bands. I was no longer ignorant to the ways of rock and roll, man. I had my quote-unquote cherry popped a long time ago as far as music. And I'm still being introduced to songs that not only do I like, but, man, have gone down to be some of my favorites of all time through professional wrestling.
Yes, yes.
Once again.
Let's talk about, ECW's opening for their TV show.
Oh, man. And not even that, but some of their vignettes or some of their liners. Oh. They would use Rage Against the Machine, man.
Oh, yeah.
They would use, God, man, who did these?
Zombie,
yes.
They used
Kiss?
Rob Zombie.
Who used Kiss? That was Taz. Taz came out of War Machine.
War Machine.
Another.
Holy crap.
Another one, man, that worked so good for him. Now, I was actually familiar with that one.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I was actually familiar with this song. And when Taz would come out to it, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kiss,
man.
Kiss.
And I know how much you love Kiss.
Well, not a big fan, but it's one of those things. Wow.
It fit.
This is, a band from 30 years ago. Kiss is not even on the radar.
Not at this point.
This is like the mid '90s.
Yeah, they're out of the face paint.
Kiss is.
They haven't gone back to the face paint.
No, yeah, Kiss is done.
Yeah, I mean,
at this point, nobody cares about Kiss.
Right.
You pop Taz with Kiss has got a thunder.
Well, War Machine.
I'm sorry. Yeah, War Machine. Yeah. And
bam,
and boom, there it is.
It is. Now, speaking of Kiss, should we talk about the Demon in WCW?
Whoa. Yeah.
Wow. Well, but then again, it's still a music wrestling.
Oh yeah, for sure, because Kiss did their performance on.
Yes, sir, on Nitro.
On Nitro.
Well, Mike, if we're
to introduce this character of
the Demon. Whew, buddy, who was it? Brian Adams? Wasn't that Brian Adams?
That one, yeah.
Or was it the other one? Not Brian Adams.
Sure.
Why not? Why not? And Mike,
Brian Clark, Brian Adams.
Which I did like Chronic. I thought that was a pretty cool tag.
Yeah.
I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
But Mike, since we're talking WCW, once again, let's maybe segue into WCW.
Okay.
Because we just talked about the Demon.
All right.
We can't leave out Master P, bro.
Oh hell, here we go.
Hooty hoo! I was going to do it, man. I
was hoping just somewhere it would just be. It's one of those things we forget.
Nah, how can you forget Master P, man? Master P made you say, remember that. And every time I would see him on TV, I go, Hey, I don't care what anybody says, man. That first Master P CD was the shit. I had it. I played it out. I'll put it on the day.
Oh yeah.
The first one, man, Ghetto Dope. That was good shit. But whatever, we're gonna just give Master P a little bit of props. Maybe not the best in WCW.
No.
Maybe
this was ill conceived.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, having a rapper come into a southern-based company as the babyface with the country guys being the heels. Man, maybe that booking could have got a little flipped, It may have worked in the northern territory, but in the south, even in the 90s, man, it was still... And Master P wasn't maybe considered... He didn't have the most credibility amongst the rap scene. He wasn't a Tupac, he wasn't a B.I.G., he wasn't an NWA, or a Snoop. He wasn't anybody on that level. Master P was always... I love Master P's first album, but a lot of people didn't. And I think... that didn't help him coming in. If it had been a better established rapper, maybe. But even in WCW...
Redman, Method Man.
Oh, dude, I'd been all over that shit, man. I mean, that would have been the tag team.
Yeah.
Well, hell, man, while we're talking about that, what about the Insane Clown Posse?
Ooh.
I mean, they were involved, man.
They were there.
And they've actually done some decent stuff in wrestling, man.
They've been involved heavily
in wrestling. And I like Stranglemania. I like those tapes. I don't know if I like anything they've done directly...
Let's smarten everybody up. The Stranglemania tapes.
Yes.
What are those?
Now that's from the death matches, if I'm correct. Yeah, or some independent.
Right. A lot of the Japan stuff.
Yeah.
Independent stuff that they were doing, the death matches, and they would do their own commentary.
Right.
Which was
pretty damn funny, man.
It's pretty damn funny.
It really is. People love ICP. People hate ICP. Man, their commentary on these tapes
hilarious.
It's pretty on point, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, if you're a wrestling purist, you're not
you're
gonna
gonna
want
hate it.
You're
Oh,
not
you're
gonna
gonna-
want to watch this.
No. If you're a purist, man, just go ahead and skip it.
But if you just want some fun stuff, watch it.
It's hilarious.
I'm
man.
not big on ICP
Right.
as far as music wise,
Right.
but this stuff is
It's
hilarious.
It's gold, man.
Yeah.
Some of us, and I like when they worked with the oddity some, and they jump back and forth between WCW
You
and
say
WWE.
word.
Well, when they showed up,
Yeah.
when they made an appearance,
Yeah.
But God bless them for being in. God bless them for being in the
There was
business and
worse.
trying to.
There was worse.
And they always do try to put wrestling over.
Yeah.
Love them
Yeah.
or hate them, man.
Yeah.
They are loyal to this thing.
Yeah.
And, and I've always liked some of their music. I'm not a juggalo, obviously, by any stretch, but I like some of their music. Some of it I think is a little hokey. But for the most part, man, I respect them as far as wrestling goes because they've always had a place in their in their circumstances and scenarios to fit wrestling in.
Right.
Whether it's in their music. I mean, one of their albums is called The Great Malenko, man. I mean, and that's a great album.
Yeah.
Honest to God, man, for their fans, that's considered to be one of the best, if not
Right.
the best. Obviously it's subjective, but man, they're still paying homage to the art form that we love and we're talking about right now. So I'll give ICP the props as far as that goes. I give them props across the board, man. I think ICP's great marketers, but that's neither here nor there, man. We can maybe talk about that a little in depth later on.
Well, if you're done selling the ICP to everybody,
like Lasertron.
yeah. Is there anything else in that WCW era that sticks out as far as music wise?
Just the NWO, man. And the Wolfpac. The Wolfpac thing was badass, man.
Right.
Talking about rap music, the Wolfpac intro.
Oh yeah,
That was hard, man.
That's
I will listen to that one on its own, to be honest with you. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were always kind of ahead of the curve with that stuff.
right.
They understood where
That
they,
was one of
especially rap music at that time.
Yeah.
Because it was huge, man.
Yeah.
You had the B.I.G.
Oh, for
Pac
sure.
era that was all.
For
In
sure.
fact, man, I think both of those guys are still alive when they started. I'd have to get I think they passed away around 98 or something. Anyway, man, that's neither here nor there. They had their finger on that, man.
Right.
But the actual NWO music itself, that's iconic, man.
It is.
It's iconic,
It
dude.
is.
Maybe quite honestly, the last truly great custom-made intro music in wrestling, maybe. To me, I think it is. That's from my world, my viewpoint. I think it was the last great, iconic intro music.
I think we may have some arguments on that.
Sure, man, yeah.
That was definitely one of the biggest ones.
Right.
But I don't think it was. I don't think it was definitely not the last.
What would you... Where would you go with that?
I mean, you've got so much coming in on that. You've got Austin's theme music.
That's true. The Rocks.
The Rocks, but Rocks kind of went a different way.
Yeah.
You had different. You just never. The last one that would stick, I would say, is like
Maybe Stone Cold.
that one. Well, no, the Rocks last theme. I think that was probably one that was going to stick. Cena.
Cena. Oh,
John
yeah.
Cena. John Cena.
It's like I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Yeah, I can't see the words.
I can't see saying it. But
Yeah. John Cena.
John Cena's actually had two.
That's true. That's true.
You're right, man. You know what, brother? I'm gonna go back on my NWO. I'm gonna say it was what Cena's using now.
Yes,
Now,
that's the biggest
the
one.
biggest.
That's the biggest.
But Thug and Office was kind of hard, man.
It
But
was.
Thug and Office was pretty good, dude.
Mm,
I'm gonna be honest with you, Mike. And you heard it here live on the podcast first.
huh.
I'm a fan of John Cena, the rapper. To be completely honest with you, man.
I'm a fan of John Cena, the person.
Well, I am too. I think John Cena is great, man.
Yes.
I cannot put
I
that guy
still
over.
say he's this era's Hogan.
Oh, without a doubt, man. Without
For
a
sure.
doubt. Oh, he's been the flag bearer, without a doubt. Now, I mean, I've seen the flag. I haven't seen him.
Right.
I got to quit those
Yeah,
damn
yeah.
jokes. But no, man. I mean, I love Cena, and I love, like I said, man. I think he's a dope rapper.
Yeah.
I mean, and I actually used the term dope rapper, but I was watching an interview with Snoop Dogg, and they asked him, "Hey, what do you think about John Cena?" And he said, and I quote, "He's a dope rapper." And I think he is, man. Okay, I know we're talking music, but let me just say, when Cena was doing that gangster rapping thing, and he was coming out doing those freestyles on people, that shit was good, man. That was good stuff. When he was cutting these little battle raps.
You're talking about like the battle raps on MTV.
Dude, I liked it, man. I thought it was good. He cut one on Big Show one time, brother, that had me in tears.
No, yeah,
man.
yeah.
I mean, he would just cut some good ones.
Cena can lay down a lot of work on the mic,
Yes.
like nobody else.
I agree.
He can be funny or he can be real.
He can get really real.
He can
Yes.
get real, and a lot of times he'll have my attention
Absolutely, bro.
with anything.
Absolutely.
Not so much on the rap though.
I did. I like the rap.
Just it felt like this is forced. What are you doing?
You see, you know, Mike, I disagree with that, man. I felt that it was something that he came natural to him because you could tell he's a fan. He's a hip hop head. You could tell this, and I think it did, man. That's why I always liked it. It felt like it came. I can almost see seemed like I want to be the rapper.
It seemed more natural coming from Double J Jeff Jarrett.
Ooh, whoa! You mean he was gonna be alone with his baby tonight? Come on now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what?
What?
I think that's a good place to say. Let's just quit talking about John Cena, but let's talk about some of these WWF theme songs.
Well, let me tell you. Let's start off with probably one of the greatest music performers of our era.
Oh Jesus!
Honky Tonk
Oh,
Man.
the Honky Tonk Man! God Almighty! You know, man, it always upset me the amount of hate people got because he was just the best singer.
Hey.
He was the best dancer.
Yes.
He could play the guitar better than anybody.
Yes.
And people still boo the greatest intercontinental. You
What
know
are
how
you
I feel about
gonna
the Honky Tonk Man.
What are you gonna do?
Haters gonna hate, bro.
I know.
Haters are gonna hate. Jesus Christ, if there's ever truer words.
He's the Honky Tonk Man.
And man, what was the second single? The Honky Tonk Blues. Was it the Honky Tonk Blues or Snakeskin Blues? It was the Snakeskin Blues after he gave Jake Roberts the damn blues after he hit him with his guitar, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect, man.
Hit after hit
after hit, man. He was the man. Him and the Colonel.
Yes.
Peggy Sue. Brother. Great call, man.
Oh, yeah.
I would have straight up forgot that. That is a great call. Yeah. But you're right, man. There's a great song.
Yeah.
Now here's something I have about WWF, man, or WWE. You know, it's still hard for me. I still get caught up on it. You know?
At that time, definitely WWF.
Right.
All right.
And I think now, Mikey, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they mostly just had one composer.
In-house
composer.
In-house. And early on, if I'm not mistaken, it was Jimmy Hart.
I think
was
he
doing a lot of that stuff.
Yes, sir.
Then later on, Jim Johnson.
Yes.
Was doing a lot of the music for later. You were talking in like late '80s, early '90s stuff on into the '90s.
Going on into.
But I think Hart was responsible for a lot of that stuff early on.
And speaking of the other guy, Johns, is that his last name?
Jim Johnson.
Johnson. I was actually watching an interview with someone, I can't remember who it was, but he's probably got more money than anybody.
Yeah.
Because he owns the rights to every single song, all those royalties, man. He's actually got probably more money, other than Vince, obviously. But as far as WWE employees, he probably has made the most. But here's the downside of that,
about between him and Hogan.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Now, as for a non-performer, without a doubt.
Right.
Well, for just a backstage guy, because he owns all that, all those copyrights and everything. But now here's the downside of that, Mike. In my opinion, I want to get your opinion on this. All bands tend to have a certain similar sound.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about AC/DC. I've always said if you like one AC/DC song, you like them all, because I love that song. I freaking love that AC/DC song, man. I'll listen to that some bitch in all its different versions all day long.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sabbath.
Yeah.
It's
on loop.
It's on a constant loop, man, but it's great. I love those 4 chords, man.
Yeah.
That's actually the chords and not the band name.
Right.
But it's great. Sabbath is like that.
Yeah.
Even Van Halen, even something. But so I guess my issue with some of the WWE music is it all had a similar style.
Yeah.
You could tell it was done by the same people.
All the in-house music was, that was definitely, and to me, as good as some of it was, and some of it that went, because with the exception of Hogan's, which was done by Rick Derringer.
Right. And I think Jimmy Hart had something to do with Real American too.
I think he helped. He
was involved.
Definitely get in on that. Besides that, and Pomp and Circumstance, of course.
Much, right.
All the other music seemed, Piper's.
His bagpipes.
Bagpipe.
But that's public domain,
right?
Type stuff.
The rest of it seemed very generic.
Yes, it is, man. It does.
Or like you said, that was a public domain with Piper. The Bulldogs
had their English.
Yeah.
Right.
Which was just anthems.
Right. Which
Rush, Vladimir. No, not Vladimir.
The Bolsheviks.
No.
Nikolai Volkov.
Nikolai Volkov.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. they had theirs.
He did the theme. He'd sing it.
Yeah.
He'd actually come out and sing it. He actually had a great voice, man. Nikolai
Yeah.
Volkov actually had a really good singing voice.
He did.
That song he does on the wrestling album, which we need to talk a little bit about,
God, the wrestling album
was really great,
Yeah.
though, man. But and we definitely want to
Well,
get to
here's the thing about the wrestling album is they only used maybe one song.
Wasn't as far as like the people's intros.
Absolutely.
It wasn't much, man.
No,
you had
they only
Hillbilly
used-
Jim used
Yeah.
his and JYD
Yeah.
Grab Them Cakes, and and Real American if you want to count that one.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
I can't think of any because Roddy Piper had a great song on that album that never,
No.
Thank Everybody or what
Yeah.
was it? Thank Everybody or it really was going to say Fuck Everybody.
Right.
That was
yeah.
what it really. And I think they changed it to Thank
Yeah,
Everybody,
yeah.
but it means
Yeah.
it means the other.
Yeah.
Land of a Thousand Dances. That
Oh
one.
my God.
The video, I'll remember the video.
Ah.
And then of course you go into Pile Driver that came out.
Pile Driver after that.
Yeah, but man, I want to just kind of before we get into that era, just about some of the more modern music in the WWF. We'll stick with WWF right now, and even though it was very similar, man, we got to talk about the Brood. The Brood's music
Man.
was off the charts, man.
And if you remember who the Brood were in the Attitude
Yes.
area, it was
Gangrel?
Edge,
you're
Christian, and Gangrel.
Gangrel. Yeah, the vampires. They had a vampire,
Yes.
gothic.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And their music
Oh,
was
the entrance.
Oh, the whole
entrance
thing.
and the whole presentation
thing.
was just badass.
Now let me ask you, Mike. Would you say that maybe the last great musical entrance presentation as a package? It's hard to think of anything that's come after that, man, that has that same just staying power, man. That same
I would
impact.
say after that, Bray Wyatt.
Okay, well, see, that's getting a little bit more into the modern era for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I would
Okay.
say Bray Wyatt, especially when it was Bray Wyatt, the Wyatt family.
Okay.
That
right.
had that spooky kind of
Ominous. Yeah.
The
Yes.
lights were out, and
Yes.
you just have the lantern. He's holding it, and the group's walking down to the ring, and it's that was magic.
They hit something,
Yeah.
and speaking of Bray Wyatt, man, of the little bit of knowledge I have on the modern product, that probably is one of my favorite things that I've seen in the last several years was Bray
and
Wyatt.
Great intro song.
Yeah. But it seems like it kind of dropped a little bit. Once again, is why it's so hard to get invested in this damn thing, and why I just don't really watch it that much. But I'll tell you, Mike. So we brought up the Attitude Era. We're talking a little bit about that. Stone Cold, the glass breaking, is iconic.
Yes.
Absolutely iconic. The Ultimate Warrior theme
wow.
is always going to be iconic to me.
That's always going to be one of those things where you remember just running.
Yes, a little generic sounding. It really is.
It was one of those pump songs,
and it worked.
Got everybody going.
It worked. I talked briefly about Shawn Michaels' song.
Absolutely,
dude. That to me is really truly an iconic because he did, and he cannot sing, man. Shawn Michaels is not a vocalist, but it worked for him, and it worked on through his career. Not once did they ever change his music.
No,
and because it was a little hokey, and it almost went from being hokey to iconic.
Yeah, it
did.
did.
And it's crazy how that worked for Shawn Michaels. Is there anybody else, man, that we're forgetting in
Triple
the
H?
Triple H, Motorhead, man.
Motorhead.
How did we forget this?
But, and there were several different incarnations of Triple H Motorhead themes.
Songs. Yeah, it's like he had a working arrangement with Lemmy, and God bless you, Lemmy. God rest in peace to one of the greatest rock and roll icons.
Absolutely.
Of all time, man. Lemmy.
Pure rock and roll.
Pure rock and roll, man. What rock and roll is always meant to be was Lemmy Kilmister in Motorhead, and rest in peace, brother, or rest in partying, man. I mean, I doubt if there is a heaven and Lemmy's there. I don't know how the hell that happened, but if it's true, he sure as hell ain't resting.
There you go.
So God bless Lemmy Kilmister. So man, you're right though. Triple H was another good one. Hulk Hogan coming out to Jimi Hendrix, Voodoo Child, or as
that WCW Hollywood Hogan.
Hollywood, yes sir. Or as Mike Tenay used to call it, Hollywood Chili. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Dude, he said you could tell he's reading off the notes,
right?
Because child is spelled, it's like without the D to kind of give that certain the way it's spoken.
Right.
Voodoo Child, obviously it's Voodoo Child.
Yeah.
So I think it has an I in there or something. He called it Voodoo Chili.
Voodoo Chili.
Man, me and Shroncy were like, come on, Mike Tenay, man, this son of a bitch, he can talk about people like these lucha libres, man.
He's white. He's white.
That motherfucker clear. That motherfucker like clear Pepsi, man. Son of a bitch, you see through him, bro. I mean, but goddamn, I'm white, and hell, I know better than that. But Jesus Christ, man,
he's a robot.
That yes, like I said, that son of a bitch is crystal clear. But
yeah.
But when he said voodoo chili, I'm like, nah, man.
Oh, come on,
man.
Son.
Come on. It might not Mike today. Come on now.
I know. You know, we're listening to you, and you know the movie.
He knows everything.
Everything.
That some bitch could tell you about Japan 1978. Some motherfucker wearing a mask or some shit.
Man, he can't tell you about
Jimi Hendrix. Motherfucker, what? Damn it, Mike, today.
He's not like a new kid either.
No, man, that motherfucker's old as hell. But anyway, man, that shit just aggravated me.
He was at Woodstock.
Yeah, man. No, he's the one outside of Woodstock telling on people not paying for their tickets.
Yeah.
Hey, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, that's Mike today, right? He was the hall monitor.
Don't eat the brown chili.
Yeah. Somebody needs to slip him some chili. Anyway, okay, Mike, today you dropped the ball. But that was badass, man. When Hollywood Hogan came out, playing the belt like a guitar and...
Yeah.
You know, and that was the return of known music,
right?
You know, because we hadn't heard that
established music.
Yes, and that was the first time, man. Well, Mike, let's talk a little bit about the wrestling album, you know, and about Pile Driver. Do you want to talk a little bit about these? I mean,
I could tell you more about the wrestling album than I can about Pile Driver.
Me too.
Because Pile Driver just did not catch my attention.
No,
not like the wrestling album did.
Agreed. And I don't know. Do you think that's maybe because of the newness of the wrestling album, or do you think that Pile Driver, in my opinion, just wasn't as good musically?
It was not as good musically.
It really wasn't.
In my opinion.
Mine too.
That's totally my opinion. I don't think it had anything that you could take away from it. For instance, like a Real American. That was on the wrestling album.
Right.
You take that away.
Don't go messing with the Country Boy. Was a classic. Grab Them Cakes was a classic, man. I mean, those are good songs.
Yeah.
You know, what was on Pile Driver? Was the Birdman song on there? Something like Coco's theme?
Yeah.
And I liked it. You know, Coco could actually sing, man. I thought he had some chops.
I was not a big Coco fan.
I mean,
Pile Driver, of course. The title song.
You're right. It was.
Yeah, and they even did a music video.
Yes, cheesy as hell.
Oh yeah.
And you know, Mike, that kind of brings me back to a Land of 1,000 Dances. You know, being a Mark kid, and obviously WWF always been a little bit more theatrical, a little bit more of a spectacle than an actual competition, as the NWA and Jim Crockett's presented it. You know, so it was always a little bit more of that. But I always hated the fact that you had your good guys and your bad guys doing a music video together. Yeah. You had Freddie Blassie over here, then over here you had like Captain Lou, and I'm like, shouldn't they be fighting?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think
put these guys in the same room and they're not fighting.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like you know, you build up all this heat.
But you can get away with it because, you know, even still on TV, you know, say like a Piper's Pit, you have a good guy and a bad guy on there. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't.
Right. They could kind of maintain that, but it just seemed to take a little bit away from kayfabe.
It did.
You know, to use the terminology, it kind of broke kayfabe, I thought. And
they're all making music in the same room. What the?
You know, I'm over here thinking what they doing in the breaks. You know, what they doing in between shots, man. I mean, are they got bodyguards keeping them separated? I mean, is there a referee on camera? You know, what about that Vince McMahon guy? He's just a commentator. I mean, he can't do anything.
What the hell?
I mean, so it always kind of took it away from me personally, man. But
where's Monsoon?
Yes. You know, or where's Bobby?
Yeah.
Where's Bobby the Brain? We're going to definitely talk about Bobby the Brain and Gorilla Monsoon.
Absolutely.
You know. Well, Mike, brother, where do you think we're at this point?
I think we've covered a lot in music. I think we could probably cover a lot more.
We probably could.
We could probably
go home
a lot deeper into it, but it's out there. I mean, that's the thing is it's out there,
yes.
and a lot of people have done a lot of different stuff. The one subject I wanted to talk about also in this, as far as music entrances, and here's where I may be in different odds with some people, and we may have this subject split down the middle as far as how other people feel. Run-ins.
Oh, when they would run the music first,
and then somebody does the run-in.
It kills it.
Sometimes
it kills it.
Sometimes. I remember a lot of those run-ins that Steve Austin did. That if that glass didn't hit,
It would have got the reaction.
It would never have gotten the reaction that it got.
That's a good point.
Hogan is another. If you go back to look at when Hogan comes in to save like anybody,
yeah.
and you hear that Real American hit,
you're jumping.
Oh,
you know, Mike.
You got a good example. WrestleMania. I want to say. I'd have to look back at but it was Eugene.
Okay.
And oh my God, who was it?
This is probably getting around the time. Eugene's around the era I started.
Daivari and
I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
Is this during the time of Mr. America, kind of?
No,
okay,
this is Hulk Hogan, straight up Hulk Hogan. Daivari and I'm trying to remember his name. They did the terrorist gimmick with him.
Okay.
And they're putting the boots to Eugene. Just putting it. You remember Eugene?
Eugene was very over too,
yeah.
man. This is about the time I was getting out, but I liked Eugene.
Right.
I liked Eugene a lot.
And then Hulk Hogan's music hits, and you will never. And I'll show it to you after we get done here. And everybody look this up. You will never. I don't think you will ever hear a bigger pop in your life.
Really.
Than that.
Mike, you bring up a good point because especially with the Stone Cold. Because I remember watching, and just recently I was watching some old stuff. I like to go back and watch some of the Attitude Era. There was one scene in particular. I don't know what town they were in, but that glass broke, and it was a run-in. It was an unscheduled match.
Right.
And that place about exploded.
Yeah.
Like you could feel the energy coming off the television. Yeah. So I get that.
It works. It works in certain ways. It works.
But psychologically,
in others, it does not.
And psychologically speaking, I've always been a huge fan of the psychology of wrestling,
mm-hmm.
man. I think that's what it wasn't necessarily the athletics that drew me to wrestling. It was the entertainment and the psychology of it. And I'm a purist, that, man. I think I'm a purist in my own fault. It really kind of keeps me from enjoying it, I think. Might be why I can't get into it as much. But the purist in me is like, well, how would this person know to have the music queued up? You know what I'm saying? Just a little rinky-dink. I'm trying to pick it apart.
Or you're going by him and say, hey, hit my music right
yeah,
quick.
Yeah.
Run on out there.
Does he hold a CD? Does he keep a CD on him,
But now, of course, you can just digitally.
Well, that's true,
Now
so,
you can do it. Back then, not so much.
Yeah, especially even back in our early days, you'd have to carry an album.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to have an
I gotta rewind this
this cassette
to the right spot.
For real, man.
Shit off. I got it. Hold on for about 5 minutes while I find
keep beating his ass. Keep beating him up. Or hey, man, back in our day, you'd have to crank up the damn turntable.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I guess I could see that because it did add, and it is entertainment, and it is a spectacle, and it is a production. I think, man, you may have swayed my opinion of that a little bit, but I still am. I'm just an old codger. About it.
If you're doing a save though, there are times where I don't think that music needs to.
It can take away.
It can take away from it.
You're right.
Especially if it's a serious moment.
Yeah, and something else is when the guys, and I think too many wrestlers do this today, and I think it's another problem I have with current product. They'll take forever to walk down there because they want their music to play.
Yeah.
No, man, your friend's getting beat up. You got to run.
Get
down there. Dusty Rhodes, man. Dusty Rhodes' fat ass would have got down there twice before somebody got down there in current WWF. And that I think that's where my negative, outlook of it kind of has a little bit to do with that as well. But no, man, here's you make a good point though. You really do.
I mean, it is. It's a split theory.
Sure.
On how it should be done, and it really depends. I think it depends on the circumstances and what's going on at that time and who it is.
Right. Agreed. I think you're right, man. It has everything to do with the circumstances absolutely going on, and not just. In other words, man, there's not just going to be a blanket rule,
right,
or an umbrella rule. Okay, well, everybody has to enter into your music, or everybody has to just run out. It can vary, like you said with Stone Cold, man. Because when you said that, I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Because when that glass would break, I think the glass breaking is more iconic than the music.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, that glass breaking dude in that place, especially back during the Stone Cold era, the Attitude Era when Stone Cold was riding the highest was the highest you could ride.
Right.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, when you can go back 20 years and watch this stuff on TV and still feel the energy coming out of your television, that's a testament to it.
Yeah. And there's a few like that now. I'll say Brock Lesnar.
Sure.
Has one of the best entrances.
Right.
As far as that goes, very few. Very few anymore.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I think of, like I said, I don't watch a lot of modern wrestling anyway. But when I do, nothing. Once again, man, the music seems generic, and some of the wrestlers seem generic. But that's for another discussion, man.
Right.
You know, I don't want to get off on my soapbox too much yet.
Now, let me ask you this, because I was curious about your opinions on this as well. Is there anybody that didn't use entrance music that you thought should have, or surprised that they didn't?
Ooh, man. Okay. Oh, wow. That's kind of going to stump me, man, because the first thing I got to do. Did Laser try and use music? If he did it, he should have.
It was the GoBots theme.
Oh, shit. You know, Mike, that's a good question, brother. Right off, man, I can't think of any. But I could tell you one person that did have intro music, and I did like the intro music, but I think would have been better off maybe without it.
Okay.
Was Goldberg. Possibly. I don't know, man. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. The reason I'm saying it, because Goldberg was so... I think straight to the point with things. You know, he just wore black tights.
Right.
Okay. I think he could have got away with. But now his intro was badass, even though he was surrounded by cops. Whatever. I'm the biggest, baddest motherfucker on the planet, but I got to have a security detail. Okay, what ifs?
I think the cops were there.
Okay, we're recording again, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
We had a technical issue. Come to find out, my little recording machine that I have here actually has a time limit on it. Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. But going back into that, I think the cops were there to keep Goldberg from, passing by every door and smashing his head into it, between that and the lockers.
And maybe to keep the fans safe. Because he might just start going around headbutting people.
Exactly.
But I always thought it took away from Goldberg's, having the cop. Not the music itself, just the cop. The music, I think don't get me wrong, man, I'm not hardcore about this thing, I'm not like, nah, man, he didn't need the music. I think he could have gotten by without it. But Mike, at the same time, that era, man, I don't know if anybody could have.
No, not then, not in that era.
Not in that time.
I don't think him coming out cold like that would have gotten him over as big. Because there was that anticipation.
Yes,
it was a build-up,
and the music is iconic.
Yes,
it really is. It did become iconic, but I think the music was iconic because of Goldberg.
Right.
And not the other way around.
You couldn't have one without the other.
True.
I don't think.
Right.
It was the whole presentation.
Right. It was a package, man.
Yes.
It was.
But I wanted, to also on that same subject, talk about wrestlers that didn't have theme songs,
right,
from the early era that you thought should have, or would have been surprised that they didn't have.
Right. And Mike, the name you came up with surprised me because I was like, wait, you're right. And that person was
Magnum TA.
And I never really realized that he did not have intro music.
No,
he didn't.
Not at all.
None. And he was so over. The Russians didn't have any either. And they could have come out to like the Russian national anthem, and Baron. The Baron could have come out to some sort of, classical type. I could see him coming out with some German type opera or something. But we talked a little bit about Paul Jones.
Right.
Coming out with Rude and Bull.
Rude and Bull with that. And that was an era. Like I said, Dusty had his theme.
Yes.
Rock and Roll Express. Jimmy Valiant.
Yes. Midnights, obviously. Road Warriors.
Yeah. All over, and Rick Rude and Raging Bull had the Queen "We Will Rock You," which was badass.
It was, and that's another one. I'll
say it again. We said it last week. It was badass.
That entire presentation, and just to put over Rude and Bull a little bit more, their whole presentation was kind of simple.
Right.
It was "We Will Rock You," which is hands clapping and feet stomping.
Oh,
that's all that song is. That's it. It's iconic.
It was the march to kick ass.
Yes, and you had two guys who weren't all glitz and glamour. I mean, Raging Bull had his his robe, Rude had his robe, but the Raging Bull just came out like he always had.
Leather vest.
Yes, sir. The
bandana.
Fingerless gloves.
Oh man, those fingerless gloves. tell you what, I had to buy fingerless
gloves
because Raging Bull had them.
Oh, I did. Well, I had
it was badass. badass.
Oh, I did. Well, I didn't buy them. I just took some old gloves and cut the fingers out and got in trouble. You know, dog, goddamn, why you cutting my gloves? You know, Dad mad as hell. Well, I'm not the Raging Bull. Yeah, I'm going to show you a flying burrito. Yeah. But yeah, man, it was, but the music, once again, man, the music just put it over that much more. But you know, man,
you talk about the fingerless gloves cutting them up. I remember trying to make our own belts.
Oh, dude, man,
and I used up all the tinfoil.
Yes.
And the duct tape.
Yeah. Oh, I did electrical. So, Dad couldn't keep electrical tape, man. And God bless you if you need a little man. If you need a little extra piece of cardboard, you shit out of luck, man. God damn, I gotta have a faceplate, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you said with the aluminum foil, but that's for the TV title. That was only for the TV title.
God, they're so bad. What the hell's the duct tape?
Jason, you see my electrical tape? No, hell, I'm still recuperating from the fucking gloves, man. But you know, man. But let's talk a little bit more about the Magnum TA though, brother. I think
it was such a shock.
Yeah, and you know, obviously the fans didn't get the way I say fans, the PUDs didn't get to hear, you know, because we weren't recording anymore.
Right, yeah.
Once again, who knew? You know, we're learning new shit every
week. And of course,
people.
you popped in Lasertron.
You know, I get my Lasertron reference.
Get the Lasertron reference in there.
You know, man, I'm going to try to either bring up Lasertron or Big Mama's titties in every show. Because I want every show to be as epic as those things, man. Yeah. Hell, man, we could call this thing Titty Talk, the Big Mama Appreciation Podcast, for all I care. Hell, I could come up with it. This week we focus on the left titty. Yeah. Join us for our 2-part episode. But you know, man, as we were talking about that off air, you know, there was some other baby faces like Ronnie Garvin, Barry Windham.
Right.
You know, they didn't have it either.
They did not. And, you know, they just went in, you know, cold. It was serious.
And yes.
Yeah.
And it amazes me, man, I can almost see some of the heels, like Barron, you know, the Army. I can see them maybe not having it.
Right.
You know, because a lot of times music is to kind of pump up the crowd. You know.
I want to say Jones used to, almost like a military type march theme there towards the end with, you know, some
with the Army. I think you might be right, Mike, actually. You know, now you're saying that's ringing a bell with me. I think, but it was some kind of like public domain type, you know, just a marching man. Right. But let's see, what else did we go into, man? You know, like I said, just talking about Magnum not having Ronnie Garvin, Barry Windham, you know, some of these guys. Then Dusty obviously changing his music per week sometimes. Right. You know, honestly, man, he would come out to Bob Seger and Hank Jr. is the two I remembered. A couple of different Hank Jr. songs. You know, Born to Boogie and Judge a Book are the two that come to my mind, you know. But, you know, man, you brought up, talking to Ronnie Garvin, you know, you brought up Miss Atlanta Lively.
She may have had her own theme. I cannot remember. It's possible.
It's very possible, but just as we said a little bit ago, I think that's a great place to end our conversation, man, because once you bring up Miss Atlanta Lively, you really can't go any further.
Can't go any further from that.
You're pretty much over. Yep. But you know, Mike, before we do sign off, something I said that didn't get recorded, and just something I do want to make sure is heard and spoken and heard, just to reiterate what we spoke about at the very beginning of this podcast. Once again, people, if you want to do this thing, or anything, Mike, I don't care, man. If you want to start a band, you're thinking about a business like you did, man. You know, you've done your own business, man. I know it started out hard as fuck. It had to have, man. I mean, obviously, how could it not? But, you know, and even myself, I can look in the mirror as I say this and say this to myself as well, but do it.
Do it.
Man, if you want to do a podcast, do it. If you need some help, call us up, man. Hit us up, man. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on iTunes.
You know, if you have any troubles, let us know.
Let us know.
We've gone through those. Same troubles.
Bro, I'm going to be honest with you, man. The first few weeks got downright frustrating for me. We're doing some of the post-production stuff, but now I'm getting my groove on it. I'm figuring some stuff out. Like, we have a time limit. I didn't know that. Now we do. You know, just little things here and there that we would be more than happy to share with you. You know, it's like Mikey was saying, you cannot have too many voices out there. There's enough ears.
We'd love to hear it.
We want to hear it.
We hear it, man. You know, I love listening, like I said, I love listening to Cornette, I love listening to Bruce Pritchard, I love listening to JJ's show. I just love hearing the experiences and everything about wrestling.
Yeah,
I mean, I love it.
And Mike,
I can't get enough of it.
No, me neither, man. And I'll take it a step further. You know, I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. You know, and I go to him because he covers all kinds of subject matter, like we will do eventually, man. We're going to venture out of the pro wrestling stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about more pop culture things as we go. We're definitely going to emphasize pro wrestling, the old school pros, because that's what we're into. But, you know, like I said, people, if it's something you're thinking about doing and you're just kind of on the fence, I don't know, I may do it, I may not. Do it. Do it today. Do it right now, man.
Yeah.
If you're listening to my voice and Mikey's voice and you're like, God, man, I wonder if I can do that. I wonder if me and my friend can do that. Do it. Does it have to be about wrestling? Fuck no, man. It can be about music. It can be about movies, man. It can be about Lincolnton. I would love a Lincolnton. And I think me and you are probably going to get in some Lincoln stuff, you know, about our hometown. I would love that. Like I said, I'm a huge music fan. You know, Mike is a huge horror fan. I mean, I'm a huge horror fan. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And like I said, people, you know, do it. It's fun, man. It's some of the most fun I've had. And just elevate and empower others. You know, I think at the end of the day, if we have something, if we have like one of those little moral lessons at the end of G.I. Joe you used to do, I think today's lesson would be just empower each other, man. Don't hate, elevate. Elevate, man.
It's a new day.
It is a new day, man. And
speaking of new day,
that's some good music too, you know. But really, people, you know, help your neighbors, man. You know, let's get a network going. Hell, let's get 1 million podcasts. Hell, let's just don't stop with 1 or 2 or 3, man. Let's get 1 million.
Yeah.
Let's share these things. Let's get a network, people. Let's just empower and let's hear each other's voices, man.
Talk it out.
Talk it out, man. Let's have fun and let's get your voices out there. Be creative, man. Just be you. Be the best you can be. And if that means doing something like a podcast, if that means going out and picking up a guitar, you're 50 years old. Fuck it, man. You're going to live to be at least damn 90.
Yeah.
Hell, you got 40 years to learn to play that son of a bitch, if not longer.
Yeah.
Do it, man. You want to open up a business? Do it. Do it, man. And if we can help, then my God, then there's no greater payment than to be able to help somebody come up and see somebody get empowered and somebody raise up, because they're only going to do the same thing for us.
Exactly.
You know, the more you empower, the more you raise people up, the more they do you.
That's right.
It's a cycle of positivity, and that's where we got to be, man. And you know, Mike, I guess on that note, brother, we can go ahead and start thinking about wrapping this bad boy up for today. Once again, man, had a blast, as always.
It's a big show. We could probably talk about this for 5 hours.
Yeah, you know, we could have made this and we may do a second part one day. There
may be a lot of stuff that we missed that we go back on.
Yes, absolutely, man. And, you know, once again, Puds out there, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back same Pud time, same Pud channel next week.
The Pud Cave.
And right here, coming to you live from the Pud Cave. Well, y'all, until next week, y'all have a good one.
And not only that, David, I understand we're right at the end of our program.
No, we have got to go.
This has been a great event.
There's some people out there that hate us for this.